đây nắng hay dạ nhiệt sang say dòng miền này trông như giang nắng miền dạ này khăng bất thùng mà chừng nàn đấy đột con lan khen thực hay dạ vui thùng một thô thô chặt mê ấy cố nhuận kho khlây mê cô bác cũng mà dây kiếm mà ngày bay cho một cuốn mót bay chân sắp bỏ đó ngay chuôn bóng ốn lúc y lúc ông thùng mây mình mê lâu cây miên thật thi bán bò rồi dạ hay tiền đau nhóm mấy bát nhận như vậy.
The commercial sex trade is a massive multi-million-dollar industry in Cambodia. It operates in a closed casket, tucked away from the bustling streets of normalcy, aid, and diplomacy. It sits 6 feet deep from civilization, yet the stench of sin is everywhere. But no one seems to care. International and national officials recognize the severity of the problem and take half steps to end the crisis. And while time lapses, with each empty promise, more and more victims fall prey. Sins continue to be committed all hours of the day from dusk to dawn, with flickering red fluorescent lights setting the mood. The commercial sex trade preys on all. It pays little attention to age, young and old women alike. Everyone appears to be a victim. Even children, as young as 5, are ripe for coercion. They have sex 10 to 15 times a day, with little or no freedom. They are manipulated and enslaved by everyday pimps seeking to convert the innocent souls into a small, profitable commodity. While some volunteer sexual services, others are enslaved beyond their will. These are called sex slaves. Sex slaves are different from voluntary prostitutes because they don't willingly enter the industry. Instead, they're forced into the operation, permanently shackled to a life of abuse, torture, and lies. Some are drugged and beaten to enforce obedience. Sex slaves are often hoodwinked by close relatives or family members for a few dollars, typically young girls whose virginity has become someone else's symbolic prized possession.
In Cambodia today, more than 30%, we're talking about 4 million Cambodians, who live with less than 50 cents a day. You go out on the streets, you see children going to school, but you know that most of these children will drop out of primary school by 3rd grade, especially the girls, because of poverty.
Poverty seems to be a common denominator. Countless boys and girls and women are trapped in the sex trade because they need food to eat and water to drink. Modern-day Cambodia has become another hotbed for exploitation of the worst form. We see it today, 30 years following the bloody killing fields. This was the genocide that took lives of an estimated 2 million innocent people, lasting 4 long, brutal years, from 1975 to 1979. The pain of loss and trauma is still felt today.
After the fall of the Khmer Rouge, Cambodia has been led by one party, one regime actually, for 30 years. Although there have been elections every 5 years, but elections don't mean democracy. Even having multi-party system doesn't mean democracy. We know we're not fooled by it.
At the surface, the problem can be easily deconstructed into a simple economic principle of supply and demand. Clients have a demand for the girls, for the boys. And the pimps, well, they supply the goods.
Cambodia was a favorite place, you could say, unfortunately, for pedophiles, because pedophiles have, of course, the tendency to look and to go to countries where they know that law implementation is weak.
But underneath the surface lies a much more complex web.
The current situation is the result of several factors. One is extreme poverty. Second is the lack of the rule of law. And the last but not least factor is the rampant corruption.
Those involved range from local Cambodian men down to foreign tourists, government, police, and judicial officials. Organized crime has taken underpaid politicians and civil servants by the throat. They, not anyone else, seem to run this country, and the government remains complicit to their demands.
Police are involved. Even the high-ranking officials in government are involved. How do you stop? Where do you stop?
Organized criminals have the money. They call the shots.
Because money in this country, as in Asia, money is power. More you reach, more you have power.
This is certainly true for the power pushers of Cambodia. Unfortunately, present-day Cambodia is a country with extreme contradictions.
Cambodia is not a poor country. Cambodia is full of actually natural resources, our forest, our lakes, our ocean, our rivers, even natural resources such as oil and minerals underground.
However, these beautiful qualities are overpowered by a system of greed, corruption, empty words, broken promises. The end result often looks bleak, and Cambodia is heavily dependent on foreign aid and a widening poverty gap, with the poor getting poorer. Politicians of all ranks the world over deplore the abuse of human rights, yet their few voices fade to a crisp silence. They flutter away from the crime scene, and occasionally they think about that child who is stuck in a shanty brothel. Abject poverty, corruption, impunity, greed, and years of fratricidal war have paved the way for criminals to abuse the law. The victims, the slaves, once daughters and sisters, sons, children no more, wade through their life soulless and frightened, with no hope for the future. Many are coerced into taking their own lives, while others are drugged, abused, tortured, tormented, and raped. Child sex slavery is an international problem. According to the 2009 U.S. Department of State report on major forms of trafficking in persons, as many as 2 million children are subjected to prostitution in the global commercial sex trade. International organizations estimate that anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000 women and children are involved in the trade. The United Nations claims that an estimated 30% of the sex workers in Phnom Penh are under the age of 18, though activists believe the actual figure may be much higher. Many children are sold into brothels at the tender age of 5 for as little as $10. The sale of virgin girls is abundantly troubling. They believe that having sex with a young virgin signifies purity, and with purity comes good luck or even a cure for diseases. Corruption is pervasive in Cambodia, but who's really to blame? People don't get paid enough money, sometimes going for months without a paycheck.
Poverty is one of the main issues. We know that psycho issues are also parts of the mental process to go into prostitution.
Others engage in the crime do it out of sheer greed. They want a profit, even at the cost of a young life.
At this time of the day, they play cards, and later on, it's a different activities.
It is widely believed that many individuals, including police and judicial officials, are both directly and indirectly involved in trafficking.
Mostly the pimp is a police or military, or is protected by a police. When I say protected, he gave bribes to the police.
Cha bị gật đo lại từ lưỡi hai nhé. Bị gật đo lại từ lưỡi hai. Chạy đòn ấy từ lưỡi nắng cô chui cả tè.
For women like Pan, a 30-year-old former child sex slave, life has been riddled with cruelty. She's been stuck in the slave trade for over 20 years. The thought, taste, sound, and smell of sin is indelibly etched into her mind. She remains a psychological prisoner to the past.
Nhưng mấy bà còn ướt mưa kịt nắng quạt hai của nó cả phụ những rồi.
This is our confidential shelter in Phnom Penh, in the city in Cambodia. And this is where our clients come to stay when they are waiting for their case to finalize or to process their cases in process, and they cannot return home or have no place to return. This is where they can find some refuge and counseling. And when they come here, they get a whole range of services. They have a daycare center. They also can participate in a vocational skill training. Here they are trained to earn their own income by learning how to cook, learning how to sew, learning how to make souvenir products. Here, this is where we build their self-esteem and their capacity to make a living for themselves. Each case is not the same. The way we talk to them, the way we handle them, the way we work through, it's an individual crisis that we work in, individual, one at a time. So this is what CWCC specializes in working in case by case, individually, but at the same time, working in mass by helping to get the community to understand that they need to be part of the solution.
If communities are more aware how to protect their children, the chances that the high numbers of children will be victims of trafficking will be reduced. Of course, you need laws to prosecute the perpetrators, but only making laws is not the solution. We have to make the people aware.
No one wants to see the truth, that we have to fight against organized crime. This is, for me, my main issue. If you stop the organized crime, you will have automatically decrease in drug, decrease in arms, decrease in human trafficking.
Cambodia today, on the surface, seems to exhibit subtle signs of progress. However, under the surface and behind the facade exists a sharp reality in which rights and freedoms are replaced almost absolutely with intimidation and fear tactics, and a country largely held down by the hands of greed. Something needs to change, and it can start by combating child sex slavery.
Every child needs a future. Every child has only one life, and that is a life that must be fulfilled. That is a life that starts with protection. That is a life that starts with love, care, a family that is stable. That is a life that starts with education. That is a life that starts and must continue with hope.